We are we are officially recording.
All right. Hello, guys. What's up? We're back with a podcast, and we are with.
Nick Arne.
Um. So introduce yourself.
Thanks.
Tell us.
So I'm happy to be on your platform, and I'm excited to be on your YouTube channel. I've been watching it for a little while, and I think your content's great. And yeah, my name is Nick Arne, and I'm a guitar player, singer-songwriter, and teacher. And yeah, Matthew takes guitar lessons with me, which is pretty cool. And when he told me that he had a YouTube channel and he did interviews with people, I thought it would be really fun to do an interview and get a chance to maybe spread his channel a little bit. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So, starting in with the questions.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start playing guitar?
I started playing guitar when I was 15 years old. I was a freshman in high school, and um, two reasons why I started playing guitar. One was I heard John Mayer cover the song Free Falling, which is a Tom Petty song. And my dad showed me that song, and he showed it to me like, look at this guy covering Tom Petty, sacrilegious. And when I heard the song, it sounded like magic to me. And I bought that record, which was called Where the Light Is. It was a live album, and I just became obsessed with the idea of playing guitar, and I fell in love with John's guitar playing. And another big reason was games like Rock Band and Guitar Hero were really popular at that time. It sounds silly, but me and my brother used to play Rock Band all the time, and I was always the guitar player. He would play drums, and the idea of the guitar became like a really big thing for me. I just wanted one, and my parents got me one for Christmas when I was 15, and it was one of those things where sort of as soon as I started playing it, I knew that this is what I wanted. I wanted to be a guitar player. That was it.
It's actually funny you say that about Guitar Hero because I used to play Guitar Hero. It
Yeah.
didn't, that didn't inspire me, but what inspired me to play guitar
Mm-hmm.
was honestly, I just wanted to play it.
Yeah.
But so when did your songwriting career start?
Yeah. Good question.
Or
So I think probably about a year into playing guitar, I I knew I wanted to write songs. I wanted to play my own music. Even from like an early age, I always knew that I wanted to create music and not just play other people's music. And I actually have old notebooks from when I was in high school of before I even knew how to write songs, I would write lyrics in notebooks and I would create albums like in my notebook. So I have like a full album in my notebook of songs that are not real and they were never real. But like the words were there and sort of like the idea of what a song would be was in the notebook. Like I had like an angry song and like a sad song and um, I had ideas about what these were about and I would like organize them. I would like draw the artwork and I would like write the track order. I was always obsessed with the idea of like creating an album. Albums were always really important to me. And so I think about a year into playing guitar, I started trying to write songs after I started developing enough vocabulary to write chord progressions. And um, I knew that I didn't want other people to sing my songs. And so I sort of just started singing because I had no other choice. And my singing was really, really bad in the beginning. I still don't consider myself much of a singer. I'm learning how to sing properly for the first time in my life. I'm taking vocal lessons.
Mhm.
Um, but I started performing songs at the school coffee houses. So I would they were like open mics. I would go on stage and I would perform songs. And in retrospect, I don't really know why people liked them, but they did. And because like looking back, they don't really sound that great. But I was really, I was like 15 and 16, and just a kid. And but yeah, that's about when I started writing songs, and I've been progressively getting better at writing ever since.
So, why did you make a channel about why did you put your music on YouTube?
That's a good question. So I think I just started uploading like shorts on YouTube maybe 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. Um, and I got the idea from a friend of mine. Uh, this guy, a close friend of mine named Larry, who plays drums with me a lot, and he plays drums on the album that I'm getting ready to release. Um, and he mentioned like, oh, you should try uploading some shorts on YouTube because like I've been uploading them and I've been getting a bunch of views, and like they're short videos and you can just like throw them out there and you might get some traction. Um, and so I just decided to try doing that, and I don't really have any expectations with YouTube. It's sort of just a fun thing for me at the moment. Like, you know, if I'm practicing something or I'm working on an idea, sometimes I'll just record it and I'll just make a little video, do light editing, and throw it out there. And it's just been a fun thing. Um, but yeah, what about you? What made you start a YouTube channel?
Um, this is actually a very interesting story, but
Mm-hmm.
last summer, my brother and I were just bored.
That's great.
So we started a YouTube channel and I was deleting, well, I started it April 17th in 2021, but I started deleting I had a habit of deleting videos because I thought they were bad.
Mm,
So so my first video was uploaded in like way past the summer, and I was deleting videos, and my first video I didn't delete was um, a screen recorded 2K mobile video.
okay. Nice. Yeah, I think a lot of songwriters and musicians can relate to that thing of constantly deleting stuff because we think it's not good enough. Like that's a very artist thing to do, I feel like. Um, I feel that way a lot, like when I write stuff. Especially some of my more recent songs. I think I've written like 4 or 5 songs in the last 3 months, and like I'm playing none of them because I'm just like, well, I don't know. I don't. Uh, I feel like I'm writing bad songs at the moment, and that's okay. Like I'm trying to just be okay with it, and good ones will come. But I also think we're also our own worst critic quite frequently. So
Mm-hmm.
just trying to
Yeah.
balance it.
So, what would you recommend for a starter guitar player because you're a teacher?
Mm. So you mean like what would I recommend like practicing, or like what would I recommend, like how would I approach playing guitar?
Both.
Okay. Um so for a new guitar player, I think the most important thing is uh setting goals and having a reason for playing. So I think it's really important. The only way to get better at something is like to do it a lot. And usually we don't do things a
Practice.
lot. Right. We want to practice. And usually we get the motivation to practice from a desire to get better at something, or a love for the thing itself. So I think the most important thing for new musicians of any instrument is to really ask yourself, what why are you playing this instrument, and what do you want to get out of it, and what do you want to get out of music? um, because if you have a genuinely good answer to those questions, I think the path to getting better will present itself. Um, if you're interested in
Yeah.
playing, like let's say I start playing guitar and I want to learn like Green Day songs or something, right? So then my teacher shows me like, well, here's Green Day songs use a lot of power chords. So then I have to practice like, how do I play power chords? And I practice that technique. But it's I want to practice it because the goal is like I really love these songs and I want to play them. So I have a reason to work at it. So I think that's the most important thing for new players is like have a reason for playing, because otherwise you probably won't practice a lot, and then you know it's hard to get better without practice.
Yeah. Um, before before you taught me, my old guitar teacher, well, when I had him, I had really no reason to play, but I just through YouTube, just watching guitarists, it kind of inspired me, so I had a reason to play.
That's great. Yeah. I think being inspired by other music is like one of the best reasons to play guitar.
Hmm.
Um, because it's sort of like if you're inspired by someone else playing music and then you start playing music, you kind of become like a part of the tradition itself. Like the people that inspired you are like passing down this art to you, and then maybe you play and someone else sees you play and then they get inspired to play because they see you. And you know what I mean? Like it can actually be a really amazing thing of like passing down this art form that's like bigger than us.
Yeah, so I don't really know how to state this question, but
Go ahead.
how do you feel about like getting up on stage or
Mm.
going to a gig and playing in front of, let's say, 1,000 people?
Well, I've never done that. Um, I've never played in front of an audience that big, but I have played in front of uh, definitely at least 100 people. I definitely there's been a few gigs where probably I did a gig at a fair a couple years ago where there was like tons of people in the audience. But how do I feel when I get on stage? I think most of the time, right before, there's a mix of being nervous and being excited. And like once you start playing, most of the time the nerves go away after like the first song. Um, and then I think the hardest part about performing is just trying to be present, just trying to be in the moment and not be too in your head about what's going on. So like what I mean by that is like sometimes when I'm playing, uh, like my brain and my anxiety sometimes gets the best of me where I'm thinking like, oh man, like that note I sang was like a little out of tune, or maybe this tempo isn't right. Maybe it's too slow, or like I wonder like what the audience is thinking, or I wonder if the person I'm playing with is having a good time. I wonder, you know what I mean? Like all these sort of like negative thoughts can happen, and I think the most challenging part for me is trying to focus on the music and trying to make the music as good as it can be and not getting hung up on mistakes or things that go wrong, and just trying to roll with whatever happens and be content. Um, so that I think that's the biggest challenge that I face when I'm performing. I've never really suffered from like stage fright. Like some people are afraid to get on stage, and I've never really had that. I'm horribly afraid to talk to people. Like you might not know that about me, but um, talking to strangers, like just having a conversation, like in a public setting, I'm very bad at approaching people. Like talking sometimes scares me, but playing music on a stage has never really scared me. Like I've never been afraid to sing about how I feel. I've never been afraid to let people know like some of the most personal thoughts I have through music. But um, yeah, so it's everybody has a different relationship with like what they're afraid of, and you know, um, what about you? Have you ever performed before, or do you think you have a stage fright? Or
Well, playing guitar,
right, we've
I've
done
never,
recitals before, right?
yeah,
So,
I've
I,
never really had a fright of that.
mhm,
But I mean, um, I've been in a play and I've been in front of
yeah,
300 people.
sure,
Honestly, you just have to focus on everything else but what other people think and the audience think.
I agree.
Like, for example, when you're on stage and something goes wrong,
hmm
you try to not you try to not let the audience know that something went wrong. You just have
That's
to roll on past it.
Yeah, that's true. Drawing more attention
And
to it is uh
and
usually
that's
makes
how
it
I do
worse.
it with yeah, and that's how I do it with guitar too. Like, say I mess up an eighth note, I just carry it back on.
Yeah, that's the right attitude to have. I 100% agree with you.
Because there's no point in stopping
hmm
because you messed up four notes. Like, there's no point.
Right, because I think you have to keep the bigger picture in mind. You know, if you're playing a whole
Mm-hmm.
piece and you miss a note or two, but everything else went well, why why disregard the whole piece just because of one or two notes?
Mm-hmm. So I know I'm jumping around here and there with my questions, but if you if you had your first lesson with a brand new student
hmm
who is trying to play guitar, what would you well, if they're trying to play electric guitar, what would you recommend for them as electric guitars, amps,
Oh, like gear questions?
yeah, gear?
Okay. Yeah. Um I've never been much of a gearhead. I sort of knew an embarrassingly little amount about gear until probably like a decade into playing guitar. Um, well, no, probably like 7 or 8 years into playing guitar. Um, and for beginners, I think that the Fender Squires are really great guitars, especially if they're set up well. Um, the classic vibe ones are really good.
Yeah.
And I think an important thing is the only thing that matters is if the instrument is playable. So, like, sometimes I see new guitar students playing on guitars that are like set up really poorly. The action is very high. It's like a barely functioning instrument, and you have to like fight it to play it. And then sometimes this discourages younger players from continuing to play because they think that it's their fault when in reality it's the guitar, having really bad quality. So I think the
Mm-hmm.
best thing is to have an instrument that functions well and that is playable, but it doesn't need to be expensive. I actually think playing on lower priced gear is better because it forces you to deal with like the instrument itself. If you start playing with like a fancy guitar and like a really great amp, like you're gonna get lost in like uh, having tons of reverb or tons of distortion or like lots of amp effects, or like you're gonna get lost in the gear aspect of it, as opposed to if someone starts playing on like a Squire and it's set up well and they just have a simple practice amp, like that'll force them to really get a sense of like how to play with good tone, how to find your own sound on it. Um, those things to me are much more important than like getting wrapped up in like, oh man, like I have the coolest amp and it's got all these settings and it's, I have a $2,000 guitar, and like I think that stuff is not important, especially for younger players.
So what you're trying to say is just get the simple stuff, not like the high tech.
Yeah, yeah. The simple stuff. It's better to start with, um, because it'll teach you how to deal with the essence of playing guitar, and it's better if you're, you know, if you're a kid and like your parents are buying the guitar for you, like it's also better for them because like if you end up not liking it, at least they didn't drop like tons of cash onto a guitar that you're not playing anymore, you know?
Hmm. So, what made you become a teacher?
Um, I started teaching when I was still in college. I think I was a junior in college. Um, and I had a friend that was working at a music store, and he was graduating and he was going to leave that job, and he got offered a better job. So he asked me if I wanted to take over his spot at the music store he was working at. And I said, sure. I needed some money, and
Hmm.
I had never taught before, so I was like a little scared at first. Um, but teaching is one of the best things that happened to me because, um, in a somewhat selfish way, I've learned so much about myself and about my own relationship to my instrument and music from teaching. There's like a saying that like the first few years of teaching is you just learning more about the thing you're teaching. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so the first probably 2 or 3 years of teaching, it was a lot of trial and error with figuring out like what's the best way to show people certain concepts. And I think over the last couple of years, I've developed a pretty good system on how to teach people, and I think I'm good at it. And yeah, so but that's when I started teaching. I think I was a junior in college, and it sort of just fell into my lap, and I liked it, and then I just sought more work. So I teach full time now. I teach at 3 different studios, and yeah, it's great.
So, how is your relationship with your students?
Um, can you be more specific with the question? Like,
Like, what is your style of teaching?
mm, um, I try to cater it to the individual. So I do have like sort of general things that I will do that are the same, especially for like brand new students. Like I kind of have a set design of like what an introductory lesson is at this point because I've done so many. And I have a general path of like how to get people into playing guitar. But um, for my style of teaching, I really like to let the student lead in a lot of ways. Like I want the student to kind of tell me where they'd like to go, and then I will do everything I can to help them get there. So that's why I think having goals and having a passion for music is important because then there's never any dull spots in the lesson. Like if you're really interested in music, um, I'll always be there to try to help you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. Um, but on a technical level, I do have set things of like, okay, like we we learn string names, and then we learn like physical things like how to properly use your left and right hand, how to play open chords,
Yeah.
like learning the notes on the first two strings, reading, learning bar chords, like learning scales. Like there are things that I have uh, set lessons for, but I generally try to cater it to like what does the student want.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a great idea.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been Like I've been watching on YouTube, like actual like live guitar lessons,
Hmm.
and I just see like, all right, here's a notebook study. I
Hmm.
mean, not that that's wrong, but it's it's a unique style of teaching.
Sure. Yeah, the one thing I wanted to try to consciously avoid is being the kind of teacher that just there's no input from the student. Where like I'm not a fan of the teaching style of like, here's exactly what we're gonna do. You don't have any say. Like you're gonna like I'm gonna tell you what songs to learn. I'm gonna tell you what concepts to learn, and like there's gonna be no input from the other side. And you're just gonna follow the lesson plan every lesson. Like I'm not a fan of that style of teaching. Um, so I wanted to make sure I was doing something different from that because I think that doesn't work for everybody, and it might cause people to stop playing because they're not getting what they want out of lessons.
Now, how did you figure out, for lack of a better word, that you were going to do that style of teaching?
Um, I think it's because I've been fortunate to have teachers uh, growing up who kind of had that philosophy as well. Um, my first guitar teacher, when I first started taking lessons, um, was very receptive to like whatever I wanted to do. I was really interested in blues music and blues guitar, and he was great. He was a great blues guitar player, and so he was excited about me being excited about that, you know.
Yeah.
And so he taught me. He gave me a foundation that nurtured the things that I was interested in, which were improvisation. That's always been really important to me, improvising, um, and playing lead and rhythm guitar, and learning songs. And so he helped establish that foundation. And then I've had other teachers. My high school band teacher was very important to me. She instilled this idea of not having too much of a hierarchy between the student and the teacher. Um, she was always the teacher, but when we played together, it always felt like we were just two musicians playing. And this sense of equality really impacted me a lot. And it's something that I try to um, give to my students, where um, I try not to present too much of like, well, I'm way up here and you're the student. You know, especially when we're playing together, when we're performing, I think it's really important that students are on equal playing ground with a teacher. Um, so that was really important. And then I had a great teacher in college who um, who kind of kicked my butt into learning the stuff that I really needed to learn, but really fostered the things that I was passionate about, and encouraged creativity and encouraged me to find my own personal voice. But he like really helped me learn the essential things about how to practice and how to improvise. And yeah.
So, so I mean, your style of teaching is very unique compared to others. So, with your style of teaching, how do you think that improves or affects the student?
Um, I hope that it has a positive impact. I guess that would be a better question for my students, but yeah, I hope that it has a positive effect and it uh, gets them to keep playing and to keep feeling passionate about music or just about learning in general. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could speak for my students, but I hope it has a positive effect.
Well, it does have a positive effect because I mean, when you teach me in your style,
Hmm.
I think it does have a positive effect. because honestly, it's hard to explain, but like my old teacher, he was like, all right, we're gonna do this and this. But you're like, what do you want to do?
Hmm.
We can do this if you want to do that. I mean, that's just your style, but I think it's very positive.
Thank you.
But what I really want to know is with your YouTube channel, how does so like has YouTube helped you in your guitar playing?
Um, I think in some ways, I would say it hasn't had a huge effect on my guitar playing, but I do think that recording yourself is a really important thing because it lets you know like how you sound. So, um, if I'm recording
Yeah.
something for the purpose of making a YouTube video, it kind of lets me know like how well I know a thing. So, if it takes me a bunch of takes to get something, I probably don't really have it down as well as I should. Usually, my favorite videos are ones where it's just like, you know, I record something in one or two takes, and that's kind of fun because if I listen back and it sounds good, it's like, okay, I probably know this thing. So I would say the recording aspect is helpful.
So because to me, YouTube has helped me advance in my guitar life.
Mm-hmm.
Two certain YouTube channels, Easy Guitar Tabs and Guitar Sheet Music. They've really improved my game, and you've really improved my game.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and so about the whole YouTube thing,
yeah.
how do you feel about your channel and you showing the world like how you play guitar?
Um, I feel fine about it. Like I think the stuff I put out there, like I'm proud of, and I think sounds good, and yeah, it's I think putting music out into the world on any platform um, is a good thing, and I try to just put stuff out that I feel is worth being out there.
Yeah, same with same with any other channel.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like mine, if I don't feel like it's good enough, I won't put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many scratched videos,
Sure.
but I mean, I could maybe put those out, but I don't know how to put this in perspective. But if I put something out I don't like, I think that other people aren't going to like it. So I
Mm-hmm.
probably would delete it.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, um, with trying to find the balance between not being too self-critical, but also being okay with the fact that not everything you create is going to be worth showing. You know, in any
Mm-hmm.
field, not everything you do is going to be great. Not every song I write will be good. Um, Not every video that you or I make will be good, and that's okay. Um, so it's finding that balance between not being too hard on yourself, but also being accepting of like not everything is not supposed to be like an amazing thing all the time. You know.
So has there ever been a moment where you felt like you've improved a lot?
Yeah. Um, I don't. Well, so I don't know if there's a specific moment, but usually I notice that kind of stuff when I watch stuff from me, like when I watch or listen to stuff of mine from like a year ago or 2 years ago, And when you listen to older stuff, you sort of go, oh wow, like I sound different now. Like I can do that thing better. Or um, like I've noticed it a lot with singing and songwriting and guitar playing. And yeah, I think it's important every once in a while to sort of look back and acknowledge that to yourself, that improvement is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because um, yeah, if you never do that, I think I think you're doing a disservice to yourself. I think you deserve to celebrate yourself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just to let you know, we are getting low on time. I don't know if you can see that too. Yeah,
It's 8:10.
we have about
Oh,
four
we only got
minutes
10 more.
left. We have about 4 minutes left on the Zoom call. We can always start another one. But how are you doing with questions? Do you still have more, or do you want to wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, go for it.
So, if you want to see Nick Arne's channel, that'll be in the link down below. His new album will be in the link down below. His song channel, Nick Arne Topic, will be down below. Every playlist channel of his will be down below. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you in the next video.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, you can
Thanks
find
for your time.
yeah anytime. And to anyone listening, you can find my record. It'll be out, um, I think in August, and you'll be able to hear it on all music platforms. We'll be releasing a single soon, so maybe we'll release this around the same time as the single, and we'll have that linked down below. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, thanks again for having me, and thanks to anyone who listened. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.